Alright, so we're on tutorial number 3 here, and what we're going to do today is remove the starter recoil, remove the shroud. The shroud has a couple purposes. It obviously protects us. When we take this apart, you'll see a flywheel. Sometimes they're metal. This one's got a plastic shield on it. It protects us from basically removing our fingers from a moving part. Okay. It also directs the cooling. If you look here, it directs the cooling through the fins on the cylinder head and block. So all the air will come out here. So a lot of people think, hey, pull all these shrouds off and it'll run cooler because more air will be exposed. Actually, that's the opposite. It will actually run hotter. So we need the shroud to push the air through and create a path. We need all these shrouds. So before we start, let's just pull one connector off here. We've got one electrical connector. We're going to leave these wires on the whole time. This is the low oil level. And this is our kill switch. All right. If we don't plug it in, the motor can't be shut off. We would have to put a wire in here and then ground it to any metal surface. That will kill it. You can see that that's what happens here. It just grounds to metal. So let's start by just quick removing the recoil. And there's 3 bolts there. Those are 8 millimeters. And the recoil, it's nice to put it in the correct position. So I'm going to loosen these 8 mil bolts and spin these out. So we've got a recoil assembly, and we're going to store all this in the shroud once we get it off. It just takes up less room in our cabinet. And so we've got a recoil. When we pull it, we can see that these pawls come out. Those pawls slide back in. When you pull it quick, they come out. Those go inside of the starter cup and grab these little surfaces. Now notice inside there is a nut that goes right onto our crankshaft and that holds the flywheel. So I've got to find out what size that is. We're actually going to impact that off, and I believe I might have the right size here. So 21, 22. Yep, we're going to impact that off with an impact gun. But we'll do that after we remove the shroud. So let's take a quick step here and put our 10 mil back on. Listen, you don't need many sockets to take this engine apart. We've got a bolt. We've got one nut here. And these are the nuts that tend to get the most damage just from removal, because a lot of times we've got to remove our shroud to get our armature gap fixed, set to fix a recoil. Sometimes you got to remove the whole shroud to fix a recoil. We've got 1, 2. I'll pull that out there. There's a nut. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll get one here. You can see I've got one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now before I start, I can actually just park these 8 mil bolts. They're actually not 8 mil. I mean, 8 mil is what the head is. That is a 6 mil 1.0 bolt, which most of the threads on this engine are. 6 millimeters in diameter, 1.00 pitch. So let's get the rest of these off. Now, if you ever, the reason also a shroud comes off is a lot of students accidentally drop a bolt in there, and there's a magnet on the flywheel, and it gets stuck. And there's no way to get in there without taking this shroud off. So let's go back. Again, we're always using extension. Got one more 8 mil. And then we will have a full exposure on this. So we are going to take the shroud off. You can see the shroud comes off. We can store our recoil in here now. We can store some other parts. Okay, we'll actually put the flywheel in there when we're done. So right now, looking at the engine, we can rotate it, and we can actually see which direction it goes. The fans are arced this way, so this is the way the engine rotates. So this is the flywheel side, and this is our power takeoff side, PTO. And it has a small key shaft, so we can put a pulley, a clutch, anything we want on this side. Notice it's 3/4 in diameter and has a key slot. So now that we've got this exposed here, there's actually a piece of tape here that we do a timing exercise on. And we're going to do the timing exercise with a degree wheel. Now, something to be to understand here on this flywheel, if we look here, there, see that magnet? Okay, that bolt sticks right to it. This magnet is going to whip past our armature here. And inside this armature is a gap of only 0.010 of an inch. Okay, usually most small engines were 12.5 thousandths, 12 to 12.5. This engine is 10, even smaller. It's called the armature air gap inside. And we'll actually use a feeler gauge when we reassemble this. So that concludes tutorial number 3, removing the shroud. In tutorial 4, we're going to show you how to remove the flywheel, the armature, and the rest of the shrouds.